What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Sergeant Moose here, back with another Evil Dead the Game video. And guys, it feels really good to be saying that again. This may not be in the best atmosphere to be saying that at this time, but it has been a little while since we've covered Evil Dead the Game here on the channel. And I know a lot of you guys are aware of that, and I think you guys know why. Right? I mean, the game is not in the greatest state right now. It hasn't been in the greatest state for a while. We're going to kind of go back. We're going to talk about the beginning of Evil Dead, kind of toward the middle of the year of Evil Dead, and kind of where it's at right now and what we're looking toward the future. So I will say, guys, this is somewhat, I guess, maybe sort of a goodbye video, because we're going to be tackling Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We're going to be playing that hardcore and release. We've been covering it for quite some time already here on the channel, and we're going to go right into release with that. Really excited about that, but Evil Dead, the game, is still, in my opinion, the greatest asymmetrical game ever made. So I have to talk about it a little bit more, but I think things with that, it's going to wrap up here on the channel. But not before I explain to you guys why and kind of what happened. Like, what happened to this video game that we all love. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright guys, first and foremost, before we even jump into this, I just want to say that everything I'm about to talk about is just thoughts right off the top of my head, man. Like, I feel like I owe it to you guys and I owe it to myself to kind of have a little discussion about what has happened to this game that we all love so much, Evil Dead the Game. So, pushing back to a few months before the game came out, my buddy and I, we had a podcast that we did on a separate channel. We did it a few times a week, and of course, Evil Dead the Game was one of our segments in the podcast. I was super excited about it, and I told my buddy, hey, I want to talk about this game. So we started talking about it, and I think I hit the nail right on the head with it whenever I did mention it. I said it was going to start out huge. It was going to start out massive. It was going to have Dead by Daylight type numbers, which it did. It even performed better than Dead by Daylight. And I think one of the reasons is because a lot of the Dead by Daylight players came over to experience a new, fresh asymmetrical, and that's cool. That's great. But the thing is when you grab them players, you got to know how to keep them. That's what this game did not do. And we'll discuss that, we'll get a little bit further into that. But, and then I mentioned in the podcast that after a while, the game would, kind of go down into like a smaller cult fan base a little bit, more of players who really like the franchise and players who just really like the game mechanics. And that seems to be what we're kind of left with today. Actually, a lot smaller than that, but still what we're left with today. But one of my biggest gripes about the game, guys, is how quickly it went downhill. It was not long after release when this game started seeing a steady decline in player base. And I'm talking about 1 month after release, guys, is when this game had a massive, probably about a 70% drop in player base. And what is the reasoning behind that? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the DLCs a little bit. So we had the Castle Kandar update, which honestly was probably the biggest update, aside from maybe the most recent one, the game has seen. Folks were extremely excited for that update, including myself. That was the newest and only map that we have seen in this entire game's lifespan. That was the only new additional map that we have gotten in this game so far. And that was a long time ago. But we did see some cool additions in that as well. Of course, the Castle Kandar map, it added a lot of new mechanics to the game. It added a lot of lore to the game, and of course it brought back, a lot of fans that were fans of the franchise that wanted to see some of that environment in the game as well. Now, I will say that the developer stream for that game was not top-notch whatsoever. It was all over the place. There were a lot of folks tuning into that stream as well, but it was all over the place, and it just wasn't looking good from there. So, in my opinion, I think it was after the Castle Kandar update, the Army of Darkness update, is whenever the game started really steeply declining. So that was a decent update, but there were a few issues in between. There were balancing issues. There were a lot of people complaining. Of course, as you guys know, in every asymmetrical game, that is just some things that happen. A lot of survivors complaining about the demons complaining about the survivors, one side being OP, things like that. So, of course, Saber would put their hand in and try to nerf, or buff different aspects of the game, different areas of the game. But the one thing I think they struggled with a little bit too much is they buffed or nerfed different things too much. And what they ultimately ended up doing was making the game even more unbalanced, more unplayable for certain characters or certain sides, things like that, and that caused a lot of people to leave. And I hate to say it, guys, but in these types of games, when people leave because of unbalance, they usually don't come back. Some people will, just to come back and test the waters a little bit, but players usually will not come back and be committed. So, in that respect, I kind of understand that. Saber is sort of newer to the asymmetrical field of gaming, so that's a lot to take on with balancing these types of games. I know I would not want to be in that position myself, but that happened, and I think that's whenever we started seeing a steady decline. Another thing I want to talk about, guys, and again, this video is not to bash on Saber whatsoever. Saber has been really good to me. I've had a really good relationship with them over the past year, man. I mean, I couldn't ask for any more. They follow me on Twitter. They gave me Savini Ash cards for the Savini variant skin, signed by Tom Savini himself, to give out to you guys, if you guys remember that giveaway I did. We've had a really good relationship with them and their community managers and things like that. We won't mention any names, but we know who we're talking about. We've had some good relationships. I can't really say too much on Saber's part in that respect, but I will say that they currently absolutely fumbled this game. And there's a lot of reasoning behind that, guys. We had a lot of hype, a lot of hope for this game because Evil Dead, it hasn't had this type of treatment from a AAA developer. We haven't seen a really good Evil Dead game, and this is the one we've gotten. So there was a lot riding on it, a lot of hype behind it. So moving forward a little bit, guys, we can kind of talk about the 2013 update a little bit with Mia and David. Great additions to the game, in my opinion. I know a lot of people were kind of like on the fence about it because they wanted some more like original Evil Dead characters and things like that, not exactly from 2013 right away, but we got them. And honestly, Mia is my main survivor in the game. As most of you know, she always has been. I have a lot of fun with her. I enjoyed the update, but that's whenever you started seeing things decline even more. Saber did have their developer stream for that as well. I believe it was their last developer stream that they had for content, and that's kind of when you knew that things were kind of starting to slow down development-wise for the game. And one thing I want to talk about, guys, is when players play this game, especially a live service model of this game, people lose interest really, really fast. You have to give them things to make them want to keep coming back. And as we've talked about in previous videos, a battle pass of sorts was absolutely needed in this game. I said this maybe a month after the game came out. This game will die if we don't have a regular battle pass, or at least something to look forward to all the time, whether it's daily, weekly challenges, different things like that. We could have even had, I believe it was Pixels mentioned this in his video, and big shout out to Pixels as well. Awesome guy that covers this game. He has been on the coverage of this game since well before it's come out, and he still is today. Big props to him, man. My good friend Old Head Gaming as well. He is huge into the game, and he's still covering it. And, we all have our thoughts on it. We're the YouTube guys over here. A lot of people notice the Twitch guys, but we're the YouTube guys over here. We have thoughts as well. But I think he mentioned about the S-Mart, which would have been obviously the perfect addition into this game. And one thing that I mentioned too is even if you can't bring in constant cosmetic skins for players all the time, there was so much potential for weapon skins within this game. Who wouldn't have wanted a cool looking lumberjack axe with Scotty, or a cool looking double barrel with Hunter Ash? There could have been so much potential to unlock things like that via a battle pass and an S-Mart. Obviously you can use your spirit points or maybe another type of new currency they could have implemented into the game to buy certain things. And honestly, on the outside, monetization. Many of us would have happily paid our hard-earned money for this content for the game, which would have helped crowdfund it, and they could have had potential for more DLC and season passes and all that crap down the road. But I am kind of glad they got rid of season passes. But they had so much potential, and they absolutely fumbled it, guys, and I do not know why. But my only opinion on this is I don't want to say this game was a cash grab, but all the signs are pointing into that direction. I feel like maybe this was a 1 year plan for this game for development, and they didn't realize how many people would still enjoy this game and want more even after that 1 year was up, and now they just don't know what to do. So, in my opinion, guys, I think this game is on the back burner with Saber. It has been migrated to the U.S. Department that works on the games from Madrid, where it originally was. And honestly, when I heard about that, that was a big kicker for me too, because I knew that something was going on there. Now, I do know that pretty much every game, or should I say every film and the TV series, they're owned by different IPs. And I know they have to get clearance through the different IP holders and stuff to release different things like that, but it's still, guys, it should not be that long, and there should not be that big of gaps between content. They release a prestige system. And to me, the prestige system in this game is the biggest joke of a prestige system I've ever seen in any video game in my entire life. For one thing, we're grinding. You are grinding endlessly. I've gotten several characters to P5, and honestly, I have had to grind some of them for months before I was even able to get them to P5. And honestly, once you do that, there's absolutely no reward for it. You get screamers, which Saber likes to think that we care about, but none of us care about them. They're cool if you want to put them in the game, but you should not have to grind your character to P3 just to unlock a picture. A picture. You should be grinding your character to P5 to at least unlock some kind of cool legacy skin, maybe some cool legacy weapon skin, or something of that nature, not a freaking screamer. And not to mention you get the 5 extra spirit points, which really, they can make a big difference, but that's not worthy of grinding all that time. In my opinion, the only cool thing about grinding your character to P5 is just to see that cool P5 beside his name, that cool 5 that shows you got that character completely done and you like playing that character. Other than that, it's just not worth it. And I think Saber had this mindset that this big prestige grind, literal, months and months and years of prestige grinding characters were going to keep people interested and keep people coming back to the game. And sure, it did for a while, but people started to catch on to it a little bit, and now they just don't care about prestiging their characters anymore. That's not what's going to keep this game alive. With that said, guys, I know that's a lot to take in. And, I'm just speaking my piece on the game here. I will say Evil Dead the game is my all-time favorite asymmetrical game. This game, I have put more hours into this game than I have done in any game I have ever played. I think we're approaching like 2,500 hours, and we're on the fast track to level 1,000 right now. I'm trying to get to level 1,000 before I start Texas Chainsaw Massacre in August, because once that game comes out, it may be the end for me with this game. I mean, I'll still come back and play it every now and then, I'm sure. But as far as, just consistently grinding it and things like that, probably not. But moving a little bit further, guys, we'll talk about Ruby as well. Ruby's release was pretty big. Ruby was pretty much the main character that I've been talking about and wanting since launch. I honestly don't know how she wasn't in the game at launch, but nonetheless, we did get her, so I can't complain too much about that. Blacksmith before her, obviously, but Blacksmith was cool, but nothing really exciting to talk about. I really don't think he was really exciting. And we had the Plaguebringer, of course, with the 2013 DLC, which I really did. I was super hyped about Plaguebringer. Plaguebringer at one time was my absolute favorite demon to play. I had a lot of fun when that DLC came out, and she's still one of my favorites, even though the witch got nerfed into the ground, but she's still a lot of fun. But talking about Ruby, and not so much Ruby, but the Splatter Royale mode that was released with her. So I'm not going to lie, guys, as most of you know, when Splatter Royale came out, I played the absolute hell out of it. And it's not because I was hoping for it, or I was wanting it, or expecting it. I just played it because I thought it was fun when it first came out. But that is not what this game needed. And the thing is I've heard, I won't mention any names, but one of the folks who works in the studio talking about Splatter Royale, and he actually said that this was something they came up with later on. Like, this wasn't something they had planned before the game's release. They actually came up with this because they thought this is what players would want. And that right there, just every sign pointed to that you're not listening to your fan base. It's like they are completely oblivious to what the fans want. Literally, not one single person asked for Splatter Royale within this game. Not a single person. And then this particular person said that, Splatter Royale is mainly for newer players that are trying to learn the mechanics of the games, the survivor side of the games, and things like that. But again, nobody cares. Just make a better tutorial mode. You don't have to make a whole new, brand new Splatter Royale mode that's going to split the dying player base as it is. And it's not what we wanted. A lot of folks, including myself, were hoping for a horde mode if they were going to add an additional mode. Honestly, I don't think this game needed an additional mode at all. I think they should have just kept building on the core asymmetrical mode they had. But if we were going to get a new mode, we should have gotten the horde mode, and I think a lot of folks would agree with me on that, which we never got and probably never will get. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, so that's that. That's Splatter Royale. It's still in the game, and it's completely dead. Nobody plays it anymore. If you queue up, you might get lucky and get a match if, 9 other players are queuing at the same time. But, the asymmetrical mode is very short on players right now, and Splatter Royale is just not looking too good as well. So again, they gave out the Savini Ash alternate outfit to folks as well, the red variant of the outfit. And again, guys, I bought that too. I bought the shirt for that, the $40 shirt, to get that outfit just to help support the game a little bit more. But they came out with that for new player, or for a bunch of players, which I thought was really cool. It was only $3 in the store. Everybody got access. If they didn't get the original Savini Ash skin from the collectors, at least they got the variant. So that was cool. But again, a single skin is not going to bring a bunch of players back to your game. And the biggest thing that worried me, guys, was the Game of the Year edition, the Who's Your Daddy DLC, of course, with the addition of Ball and Brock. Don't get me wrong, both of those guys, huge fan favorites. I was super, super pumped to get Ball within the game. And he's an awesome demon. He's menacing. He's super powerful. Lots of fun. Everything we would have expected. So they did nothing wrong with the release of Ball. Brock, of course, a lot of people were requesting him, but, there were others that I think people wanted before him. But it's still cool. His voice lines are funny. He's a good character. But the Game of the Year edition is what got me, guys. And the reason why is because of what I just said. The Game of the Year edition. And when we see that kind of stuff in video games, whenever we see Game of the Year, that usually means that they're wrapping it up. That's it. Game of the Year edition means that you're getting the entire contents of the game that, that has been out since the game started. You're going to get that all in one edition, and then we're just going to call it a day. Now, I'm not saying that that's what Saber means by Game of the Year edition, but that is certainly what we've seen. And if we're looking at it now, we haven't gotten a DLC since. The only thing we've gotten since was the double XP, which admittedly I did play a ton, and I got my blacksmith the P5, which I'm really happy about that, but we haven't gotten any updates since. And in the interview, I'm sure most of you guys saw the famous YouTube video, the famous YouTube interview with a few of the guys that work at Saber. I won't say any names, but you could tell in his voice kind of the future of Evil Dead the game. They said that they're going to look at things. They're going to see how things go. They're going to implement quality of life updates and take it from there. That's telling me that they have no plans for DLC. They have no roadmap. They don't have a long-term idea of what's going to go on with the game. That's telling me that this game, that might be it for this game. And again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get more DLC. But it's not looking too good right now. And another thing that kind of worried me is he was asked about maps. And he just had this frustrating, kind of reaction to that and mentioned that they're hard to make. He just laughs it off. Maps are hard to make. They're really hard to make. Oh, a lot to deal with. Things like that. That's pretty much what he said. Like it was a joke. Like, no, we're not joking. We only have 3 maps in this game. We've only gotten 1 as a DLC. That's it. That's all we've gotten. That's not a joke. Like, the game needs another map, dude. But the way he kind of reacted to that and his reply to that kind of had me a little concerned as well. it feels to me Saber has a lot of big projects going on right now. A lot of big projects. And I can't see Evil Dead at the front of things, especially being in the US studio at this point. And they're like, we got to get Evil Dead content out before this other stuff. I just don't see that happening. But yeah, with that said, guys, I think that's where we're at with Evil Dead the game. I don't know how much, the game will be on live servers for a while. I can see that happening. I'm not saying the game's going to be shutting down or anything like that anytime soon, but I just don't think there's any interest from the developers to continue on with this game. And honestly, I think right now it's more for business than anything because there's just not enough players playing this game that's going to be able to fund this stuff. If you're looking at a business side of things, if players aren't playing to buy these DLCs, you really can't do them. You can't make them. And honestly, it sucks for us, but it's kind of their fault that it's this way. But that's kind of where it's at with Evil Dead the game. Like I said, everything I'm talking to you guys about right now, it's just everything right off the top of my head. Of the way the game's kind of been fumbled back and forth. There's been a lot of good moments. Again, I've met so many great people within this game that I'm still friends with to this day, that we're going to be venturing out to other games and different things like that. So I have no problems in that area, and I highly respect this game because it gave me that opportunity. I met a lot of you guys here on the channel. This game has done very well for my channel, and I'm grateful for that, of course. And again, I have no bad blood against Saber or Boss Team Games or any of those guys. I don't understand the business side of it. I don't understand the development side of it, so I really can't say what went wrong. But my only thing is I'm just surprised at how fast this game spiraled down. I thought this game would at least be like big, huge throughout a whole year. But like I said, it was a few months into the game to where this game was pretty much an afterthought. And honestly, if that's the case with how well this game was developed and how differently this game was made in the asymmetrical world, that should not have happened. And it happened because lack of content, lack of communication. They have not been active on Twitter, on any kind of social media at all for a very long time now. A very long time. Every now and then they'll drop something. Oh, hey, this holiday's today. Happy holiday. And then they'll put a picture of one of the Evil Dead characters. Or, here's double XP. Or, when they teased a new DLC, they would tease the DLC. And then they would drop when the DLC dropped. And then they really wouldn't say much more about it. They went completely radio silent. And that's pretty much what they're doing today. So I think as long as that stuff goes on, guys, this game will just keep digging itself a bigger hole than what it's already in. When Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes out, I think that will be the final dagger in this game. If Saber intends to release any content for this game, I definitely believe it'll probably be around the release of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just to try to pull some of the players back that are desperately trying to leave for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that could be the case. If we don't see any content by the time the Texas Chainsaw Massacre releases, I don't think we're going to see any more in this game. Unless it's, very, kind of like stretched out content, like every 6 months or something, maybe. I don't know, but that's just not going to be good enough to make people want to keep playing. There are longtime veterans that have put thousands of hours in this game that are leaving. And when they're leaving, that's it. That is it, man. Like, I still play regularly. I play this game every single day. Every single day. I still do. But I just don't cover it because I don't care to cover it as much as I used to. In my opinion, I think I've covered everything in the game that can possibly be covered. We've went over builds. We went over Demon Survivor builds, gameplays, tutorials, everything like that. There's just no content to keep it thriving. And I'm at the point in my life, I'm getting older. I don't play games just to play video games anymore. I play games to create content because I want to be a successful content creator. So that, unfortunately, requires me to play things that there's content to be made on. And that's not Evil Dead the game right now. So, again, guys, like I said, this isn't just, a bash fest. I still play this game. I still will play this game. But until we see some communication, a roadmap, some big needed changes within the game that says, hey, these developers actually care. Here we go. You know, we got another year of content. We got we got a battle pass going on. We got an S-Mart. We got all this cool stuff. Until that stuff happens, I don't think there's any hope for this game. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to make this any much longer. That's about a 25-minute video. We almost done a podcast here. That's my thoughts on this game. I wanted to get it all out there. I hope I didn't forget anything, but I want to know what you guys think about it down in the comments below. What you think? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I think most of you will. We all want what's best for this game. You know, I know we all mean well for this game. We all want what's best, but unfortunately, it just sometimes doesn't work out that way, but hopefully it will. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, guys, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. We're going to be covering Texas Chainsaw Massacre extensively. We actually have a few videos that we're going to be making here in the near future regarding some of the stuff on release of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's what we're going to be doing, man. That's the future. Right now, that's the future of this channel, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name's Sergeant Moose. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.